It's time now to dig deep. So back in April, the CDC finally said that if you have gotten your vaccinations, you don't have to wear a mask outside in public anymore, right? Remember that?
I do. It was a glorious day.
Well, common sense had actually said that a long time ago, but it's nice for the CDC to have caught up to reality.
Sure,
right?
sure.
What would be nicer is if people actually caught up to the CDC. There are still lots of people who are vaccinated who, when they're outside, are wearing masks.
Especially those in their car.
Why are people still wearing masks? Why are people who are vaccinated still wearing masks? Why are people who are vaccinated still wearing masks while outside? The odds of you getting COVID while you're outside, next to nothing. The odds of you getting COVID after having been vaccinated while outside, it's never happened.
You know, I wonder if these are folks, and I know, don't mean to be insulting here, but I wonder if these are folks who see the glasses half empty.
It's possible.
The folks that see the glasses half full, they're looking forward.
Right.
And they're trusting that if they've been vaccinated, obviously,
the vaccines work, right? Well, Ami Horowitz is an independent journalist. He wanted to know the answers to these questions, so he went out on the street with a camera and a microphone.
No mask?
No, he didn't have a mask on. And he just started asking people who were wearing masks outside in New York City, why you doing that? Take a listen.
I feel like I have to wear it. I don't know why. I just want to wear it.
Yeah, I guess like my friends wear them, so I'm like, I might as well just too.
I feel like I won't take off my mask until everybody does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it sounds to me a lot of these people here, it's peer pressure, right?
Well, they want to fit in? Is
Right.
that what it is?
That was what one group. There's a couple of different answers, but this was one group that I noticed of answers. They were saying, my friends are doing it, so I'm doing it. I want to fit in. There's a social stigma, so I want to fit in. So it's peer pressure.
Well, I think we see that, though. I think I've experienced that in a group, for example.
Sure.
I've gone up and I've extended my hand to shake someone's hand.
Right.
And perhaps they just want a fist bump.
They offer the fist bump.
But at the same time, when you start to see a lot of other people extending their hand and they're shaking hands, people tend to become more comfortable with
Right.
that. And like you said, it's a lot of peer pressure.
There's another reason, though. Peer pressure is not the only one. There's also just plain old-fashioned, irrational fear. Take a listen.
Virtually impossible to get coronavirus outside while you're vaccinated.
Okay.
Does that change your thought process at all?
I mean,
or-
not really. I'm just going to keep wearing it. I personally still wouldn't want to take the risk anyway, and I don't trust anyone else, so I'm just doing it for my own
Even if the
health.
science said it was like basically impossible, it still doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Extra precaution.
Because I want to protect others, and there's still risk no matter what. So
It's just irrational fear. The data says there's not a single documented case of COVID being transmitted from one random contact in a public setting to another outdoors. It hasn't happened anywhere in the world. And the odds of getting COVID when you have the vaccination is like less than 5%. And then you combine the two and you're down to astronomically low numbers.
Let me get a little deeper here psychologically. Does wearing a mask make you feel like you have everything in control? In other words, the rest of your life
is
may
not
be
in your control.
spinning completely out of control.
Right. Government says you have to stay home. Government says you can't work.
Well, you may have a drinking problem. You may
Okay.
have a drug addiction.
Something else
You may
going
have a
on.
gambling problem.
You may have been triggered by a microaggression.
You may be cheating on your wife. Everything is falling apart. But I'm wearing my mask because it's not worth the risk. Do you know how many people die in car accidents every year?
Right.
How many of these folks use illegal drugs recreationally? And the risk of them dying of a stroke or a heart attack.
Or some disease they got through the needles.
Exactly.
But they'll wear the mask.
But they wear the mask because that is what's going to keep them safe in this world.
There's one other reason that showed up in his piece that he did, asking random strangers, Ami Horowitz, talking to random strangers on the streets of New York. There's one other reason. It's politics. It's virtue signaling. Take a listen.
I think it's because I have been so infuriated at people who didn't wear a mask when the whole year. So it's like a display of, I still care.
There's another guy who went, it's a form of protest. I've been vaccinated. I know I'm not going to get it outside, but I wear the mask as a form of protest against those people who didn't wear the mask before.
That is so childish.
Yes.
I mean, because you're only hurting yourself.
Pretty much.
I mean, you're only limiting yourself because the rest of the folks you're really trying to stick it to, they couldn't give two you-know-whats.
And again, I don't care if you're not wearing a mask. I wonder why you don't, because your actions, individuals' actions, tell you something about that individual. If I were to call you a name, that doesn't tell us anything about you. It does tell you something about me, right? Whatever action I take tells you something about me. So somebody else wearing a mask, that doesn't mean anything about me. Whether I wear the mask or not, that tells you something about me.
All right, but as far as I'm concerned, I respect the fact if you want to wear a mask.
Sure.
I don't know your history.
I don't.
Your health history, your medical history.
You still may not have gotten the vaccine.
And if that makes you feel a little bit better about this world, you know what? God love you.
That's fine, but don't do it on irrational fear. Don't live in fear. And don't do it for politics and virtue signaling. That's petty.